Hey guys, welcome to our YouTube channel. Today we are going to solve our skillrack daily challenge using Python programming language. Before going to logic, if you didn't subscribe to our channel, then subscribe right now and make our work more meaningful.
Let us solve today's DC using Python programming language. The program have to accept an integer n and print n lines based on some conditions. If the row x is odd, then we have to print x consecutive odd integers. If the row is even, then we have to print x consecutive even integers. So the program have to accept an integer n as input and print n lines based on some conditions. If the row x is odd, then we have to print x consecutive odd integers. If the row is even means, then we have to print x consecutive even integers as our output. Now let us consider for our test case if n is equal to 5. Now in the first row you have to print only one odd integer, so 1 will be printed, and this is the first row. And in the second row it is even, so we have to print two consecutive even integers occurring after 1, so 2 and 4 will be printed in the second row. So 2 and 4 will be printed. So after the second row, in the third row we have to print 3 consecutive odd integers occurring after 4. So 5, 7, 9 will be printed. Similarly, in the fourth row we have to print 4 integers, that is 10, 12, 14 and 16. And in the fifth row we will be printing 5 consecutive odd integers occurring after 16. So 17, 19, 21, 23, 25. So this will be printed as our required output. Now let us consider our logic, how we will be implementing this. So we will be assigning num is equal to 1. And for each row we will be printing integers num times. So in the first row we will be printing the num, that is 1. So after printing the num, and we have to increment the num times 2, so num becomes 3, and we will be going to the second row. If we are going to the second row, then we have to decrement the num by 1, so num becomes 2. Then we have to print 2, and we have to increment the num by 2, so it becomes 4, and we will be printing 4. And then we will increment the num by 2, so it becomes 6. And if we are going to the third row, then we have to decrement the num by 1, so 6 minus 1 is 5. So we will be printing 5. So after 5 we have to increment the num by 2 and print the number 7. And after 7 increment the num by 2 and we will be printing 9. So after printing 9 we will be incrementing the num by 2, so it becomes 11. So we will be moving to the fourth row. So we are going to the fourth row, so we will be decrementing the num by 1, so the num becomes 10. Similarly we will be printing 10, 12, 14, 16, and num becomes 18 here. So next row 18 minus 1, 17. So 17, 19, 21, 23 and 25. In this pattern it will be printed. So this is the logic. And finally num becomes 27 here. Now let us implement our logic using Python 3. First let us get our input integer n from the user. And then let us assign a variable num as 1. So num is equal to 1. And let us iterate over the loop. So for row in range 1 comma n plus 1. And for column in range 1 comma row plus 1. So we have to print the num and then we have to increment the num by 2. So we will use an end argument here by space. So we have to increment the num by 2. So after printing each row, we have to decrement the num by 1. So decrement num by 1. Decrement num by 1. So after decrementing the num by 1, we will be also printing a new line. So here increment the num by 2. And after printing each row, we have to decrement the num by 1 and then we have to print a new line. So this will be our required code for solving today's DC.